He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi a great place to live, work, and play. Today we're going to have a bit of a departure from the regular rhythm of Coast View. Instead of focusing on someone who grew up here in coastal Mississippi who's literally changed the landscape of coastal Mississippi, or an entrepreneur like we've done the last several shows who are betting the ranch on an idea or some business they want to launch, or even a coast character who's adding spice to the lives for all of us here in coastal Mississippi. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to focus on one of the bookends today. Our guest today is going to help me focus on Hancock County's thriving economic engine. Today we're having a Coast View session with Bill Cork, the Executive Director and CEO of the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. He's going to help me turn the mirror to Hancock County's strategic importance of the coast, to the state, and really to the nation. Welcome, Bill, to the studio.
Ricky, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is exciting. I've often talked about these really important bookends. One in Jackson County, one in Jackson County, one in Hancock County, one in Jackson County, that help the coast region, the three coast counties, become the strongest strategically and otherwise to the rest of the state of Mississippi. So the first bookend's over in Jackson County. It's east toward Alabama. It's where Ingalls Shipbuilding is located, the largest industrial employer in the state of Mississippi, and all those supporting industries. I'm looking forward to actually having George Freeland on the show. He's the executive director for Jackson County Economic Development Foundation, and we're going to do a Coast View session actually next Tuesday and talk about the economic engine in Jackson County. And then in the middle of the bookends, you've got Harrison County, a wide range of economic contributors, not the least of which obviously is tourism and casinos and all the other amenities. I'm going to actually have a Coast View session with Bill Lavers, who's the executive director of Harrison County Economic Development Commission, on April the 2nd. But today we're going to talk about Hancock County. Bill, if someone wasn't aware, they would think of Hancock County as a sleepy bedroom community. This beautiful Bay St. Louis and its downtown area. Of course, they know the Kill because Brett Favre made it famous, internationally. But a lot of people, and this is true from when I was publisher through today, when they hear what's happening in Hancock County, they're blown away. Now, for starters, and I'll just kind of set it up, and then we'll kind of launch the conversation. NASA Stennis Space Center. You've got Port Bienville Industrial Park with its direct access to intercoastal waterway in the Mississippi Sound and access to Class 1 rail service, and you'll tell me in a second why that's really important. Mm-hmm. You've got Stennis International Airport. It's got an 8,500-foot runway. I mean, it can literally accommodate the largest aircraft in the world. It has a world-class terminal. And then adjoined to it, it's got Stennis International Airpark. I could go on and on. What's happening in Hancock County, what's happened in Hancock County over the many years to position it where it is today is truly extraordinary, isn't it, Bill? It
really is. It's the reason I came to Mississippi. There's a lot of tools in the toolbox in Hancock County. As you mentioned, the big three industrial engines. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that when you look at our gross domestic product in Hancock County, of course, federal spend is number one. Number two is manufacturing. Who'd have thunk it, right? And we kind of think of the coast as a tourism-based economy, and that's certainly true in the Central Coast. But the second largest contributor to GDP in Hancock County is manufacturing. And guess what the third is? It's technology development. We are a high-tech center of excellence. And these are things that people don't really realize about Hancock County when they come down and enjoy the Blind Tiger down on the beach or go to 200 North Beach or stay in one of our great bed and breakfasts or attend one of our casinos. That we are a major manufacturing engine, major logistics player, not only for the coast, but for the entire state of Mississippi. So we have a lot of tools in the toolbox, a lot of toys to play with, and it's just a really exciting time, especially with our economy being hot right now. Everybody is just growing, and we're just excited to talk about it.
What's cool about Hancock County, and specifically Stennis Space Center, But this is not true just to Stennis Space Center. For so long, one of our biggest exports has been our brain power. And when you've got places like Stennis Space Center, you have an opportunity to keep your brain power here and bring amazing brain power in. I was mentioning to you the conversation I had with Frank Willem. He has the Willem Group now, but he was one of the 3 partners that started the Triton Systems,
right?
The largest ATM producer in the United States. They met at Stennis. And then you got our friend Mark Henderson from Lazy Magnolia, who's got patents and sophisticated radar systems and all that. He cut his teeth at Stennis Space Center. I mean, those kind of stories are there are many of them, aren't there?
There really are. In fact, I was just a week or so ago, I was finishing up a 10-day trip to Israel, and I was in a small coffee shop in the old city of Jerusalem. And in the coffee shop was a Triton ATM machine with all the Hebrew language on the screen. And I took a selfie and sent it to Daryl Cornell, who's the CEO of Triton in Long Beach, who's also on the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission board, and told him that I couldn't escape from Triton and Daryl Cornell, even when I traveled halfway across the world. So, we really have a global marketplace in Hancock County, and I'm excited to talk about that. Just as a quick rundown, at Port Bienville alone, almost every major company is foreign-owned. You have Jindal Tubular producing steel coil pipe for the oil and gas business. That's an Indian company. SABIC, plastics manufacturer, Saudi Arabian. DAC America is Mexican. Calgon Carbon, which used to be an American company, was bought by the Japanese, so they're a Japanese company. We have a small polymer ammunition manufacturer called MAC LLC, which is owned by a Norwegian affiliate. Rolls-Royce, testing jet engines at Stennis, is a UK-based company. When people think about Hancock County, SNF Polychemie, which is a French company, when they think about Hancock County, I don't think they think of Hancock County as a mecca for foreign direct investment and international ownership.
Yes, some of the most important brain power, some of the most important work, some of the most important development work, some of the most important strategic work. You've got a military presence there. We're going to get into all that as we get into this conversation. But before we go any further, I'm just curious. Did you grow up in Illinois?
I did. I grew up in the cornfields of Illinois, about 45 miles west of Chicago, in a little town called Plano, Illinois, next to a hog farm out in the country. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And you went to school there?
I went to high school there, grew up there, met my wife there. We got married in high school, believe it or not, and then off to the Marine Corps in the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where I got a degree in philosophy, believe it or not, but a master's degree in urban and regional planning and economic development, and I've been an economic nomad ever since.
So your path took you through Texas. What'd you do there?
My last job before coming to Mississippi, I had a company in Texas right before I came here, but before that I spent 7.5 years as the CEO of the Tex America Center, which was a 13,000-acre industrial development in Texas. It was a former military base redevelopment project, and they closed the base there, and we took over 3.5 million square feet of buildings and 13,000 acres of real estate and 36 miles of rail, and converted that into a massive new industrial park. And I spent a very good chunk of my career working in distressed industrial development type of projects, mostly in the area of military base realignment and closure. Mm-hmm. So I worked in about 25 communities all throughout the United States, and also had a little tour through the energy industry when they deregulated electricity and gas. I worked for a California-based company called Sempra. Mm-hmm. And brought them into the Midwest, Illinois, Ohio, and Michigan for electricity and natural gas sales. So between energy and real estate and industrial development, I've been at that for about 30 years.
Yeah, I was thinking about the people that I've had on the show, about 40 actually so far. You came here in 2016, so you actually may be the first one. You may be the newest coastal Mississippians, is the way I would like to say that.
We couldn't wait to get here.
Hey, a lot of people say that. I mean, even if they came at, I came here at 4, some came here at 5 and 6, some came here in their teens and whatever. And they all say, yeah, they got here as quick as they could get here, right? But it is interesting that you have an outsider's perspective. So you had whatever perceptions you had in place prior to coming here. And then you've been able to either solidify those observations or change them and develop some new ones of your own. We're actually coming to the end soon of this particular segment, but what was your perception coming in?
Well, unfortunately, I had an opportunity in the mid-1990s. I was working for a company on the East Coast in Maryland, and we set up an office at Stennis Space Center about 1996 or 97, I think. And I got a chance to meet some of the remote sensing scientists at NASA, and got to spend a little bit of time here. And so I knew Stennis from that business. I'd set up a corporate office with ICF there, and I got to meet a guy by the name of David Brannon, who was the director of the commercial remote sensing business there, who's now one of my tenants at Stennis Airport. But what I learned about the coast back then was that this was a lot more than just what you think of as rural, kind of backwater Mississippi. You know, being a Yankee, you have perceptions about the South. Those have been completely dispelled since I've been here, and we've just come to fall in love with it. What a great place it is.
I'm going to drill down on that even further as we continue that part of the conversation. And then I really want to take a step back and say, okay, what's the structure of your organization, which is slightly different actually than the other economic developmental organizations on the coast? It's going to be a great education, but we'll come back to perception in just a second. This is Bill Cork, who's the executive director of the Hancock Port and Harbor Commission, and is an incredible diversified holdings that Bill is responsible for, and you'll get a feel for that as we continue this conversation after the break. We'll see you in just a second.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Are your drains draining slow? MasterFlowPlumbing.net. Are your faucets leaking or toilets clogged? MasterFlowPlumbing.net. Masterflow Plumbing, from water to sewer lines, toilets to water heaters, or faucets to clogged drains. If it has a pipe and quits flowing, Masterflow will keep it going. See a leak in your kitchen, bath, or yard? Call Masterflow Plumbing or visit MasterFlowPlumbing.net. Residential or commercial, we know leaks inside and out. Proudly serving the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Visit us at MasterFlowPlumbing.net.
The Eagle Hour, covering Southern Miss and Conference USA sports. It's the latest news from Southern Miss athletics and conversations with Southern Miss coaches, players, and Golden Eagles legends like Deke Adams, former USM linebacker and now D-line coach at the University of Memphis.
In a world where you could just wave a magic wand, Deke, what has to happen for Southern Miss to take the next step?
You really have to commit financially in a way of wanting to move the program forward. If you're going to be competitive within your conference, because you look at the schools that have moved on, the head coaches are making almost triple what the head coach there is making, and it's just different. I bleed black and gold. It's one thing to say, hey, this is Southern Miss and have the pride, but you also have to be competitive.
The Eagle Hour, available on demand at supertalk.fm. Presented by the Citizens Bank with 2 convenient Gulf Coast locations on Pops Ferry Road and Lemoyne Boulevard.
Hello, this is Congressman Stephen Palazzo. You sent me to Washington to fight for South Mississippi, and since day one, I have worked to secure our borders, strengthen our military, provide the very best care for our veterans, protect our Second Amendment right, uphold the sanctity of life, and put more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans like you. We have accomplished some outstanding conservative victories over the last 3 years. Record unemployment and job creation, the confirmation of 2 Supreme Court justices, and our men and women in uniform are getting the tools and resources they need to do their jobs. In fact, we were seeing so much success that the Democrats conjured up the impeachment sham to try and distract the American people. That's why now, more than ever, it's imperative that you get out and vote. It's time to shut down Nancy Pelosi and her socialist agenda once and for all. Again, this is Congressman Stephen Palazzo, humbly asking for your vote on March 10th.
Paid for by Palazzo for Congress.
This is Home Answers Radio, and my guest today is Trey Jackson of Bulldog Construction. Trey, if a business has uneven sidewalks, they're asking for trouble. Would you agree?
Lynn, they are. It's a trip hazard and it needs to be fixed. Our foam technology can level those uneven walks without having to lay down any new concrete. Much easier and more affordable.
Trey, my wife tripped over one of those and skinned her knee up.
She was fortunate. Call Bulldog Construction at 601-853-4242.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to the Coast View. We have Bill Cork with us today, who's the executive director and CEO of the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. It sounds so, when I say that, it sounds I don't know how to.
It's a mouthful.
It is. I guess it's attempting to say what it is, but it's so much more than that, and you'll get a sense for that in just a second. But before we went to break, Bill talked about growing up in Illinois, going to school in Illinois. He was in the military for a short period of time. He actually had his own consulting business, and he was in the economic development business. And so he brought a lot of experience, a lot of perspective when he came here. And one of the things we were beginning to have a conversation about is his immediate impression, coming in from outside of Mississippi into Mississippi. He actually said he'd been here before because in one of his prior gigs, he actually helped stand up an office for one of his companies at the Stennis Space Center. So he had a sense that something really important was happening here. But he has a great perspective. He's only been here officially since 2016. So he's in a unique position to talk about what he's heard, what he thought about the perception of Mississippi, and then what he's experienced since he's here. I want to really kind of zero in on that a little bit more. So let's continue that, Bill. What are the things that you've noted since you've been here? How do we think of ourselves? Do we think of ourselves as being the underdog too much? Are there more opportunities for us when we leave to represent Mississippi in a different way? What's your thought about that?
Look, I've worked in I grew up in a rural community. I've worked in a lot of rural communities. And what I've discovered in rural America is that I think sometimes we're harder on ourselves than our external stakeholders are on us, which is good because we're resilient. We're very self-reliant. I mean, the Mississippi Gulf Coast has clearly demonstrated its resilience, after one disaster after another. We've lifted ourselves up, by our bootstraps, and so we're harder on ourselves, I think, than other people are. Let me tell you my perspective from the economic development business. I talk to corporate executives literally all over the world. I've been to India and France and the UK and all over the United States. And I ask those executives when they're making site location decisions or investment decisions in their companies, what are they most concerned about? What's the thing that keeps them, up at night? And they say, look, we want talent. We want people. I said, well, what's the perception of Mississippi's talent? Some of the best and most productive talent that they have anywhere in their corporate enterprise. I give you individual testimonials from the CEO of Calgon Carbon, who says this plant is more productive than any of their plants in the world. The same could be said of places like SABIC and DAC. When we do our business retention and expansion surveys, we do a 140 question survey of these companies. We ask them detailed perception questions. When it comes to workforce, quality of life, and just the business climate here, it is second to none. And so I think we are a little bit too hard on ourselves, and we argue over things that really aren't on the minds of the folks that are making investment decisions here. I think that's the takeaway for me.
These conversations have been so interesting to me, and I want people to see in these conversations are people like you who have a real perception about us coming in, what you've discovered here, your travels around the world, and what people are saying about us. Mississippi for a long time did earn a reputation for being last, and unfortunately in a lot of different categories. But I've had conversations with Mary Graham from Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, whose workforce training and just pure college contributions to the coast are significant. In Mississippi, have one of the best community college systems in the country. Mm-hmm. Then people like Wayne Rodolphich over in Jackson County as a superintendent of education, doing incredibly innovative things, and in Glen East here in Gulfport, and the list really goes on and on. With all these leaders focused on helping Mississippi solve the education issue, helping us understand that, as you well know better than anybody, that the new economy, the economy where we're headed, when you travel across the United States, when you ask the question about what's the perception about our workforce, that's probably one of the most important answers you can get, because in the future, they're not going to relocate just based on a good location, maybe a great climate. They want to know there's a workforce there that can work.
Workforce is number one. It used to be, in the old days, it used to be location, and that is still very true, especially for logistics-based businesses. They're optimizing their logistics and supply chain to make sure that transportation is a key factor there. But for most companies, the number one concern on their mind is workforce. And what our companies tell us, and we've interviewed over 120 of the largest companies in Hancock County, and we know the answer to this question: reliability, productivity, stability, all rock solid, higher than the national average in terms of perceptions. Workforce availability, well below the national average. We have a workforce shortage here, and it's not necessarily bodies that we're short of. We're short of skills match, the match between the skills the companies need and the skills that our workers are available to deliver in the current marketplace. So we have a deficit. I mean, we have a company at Stennis Space Center right now, Relativity Space, that needs 190 aerospace type of production workers. They're building a brand new 3D printed rocket factory out at Stennis. Fascinating business. And, trying to find people that know that industry, the material science, the special kind of equipment, industrial maintenance in those plants. That's very specialized business, and so we have to customize our training to address those high-paying jobs, which average about $90,000 a year, by the way.
And Bill, as we said so many times before, it's complicated because it's not just about saying, okay, hey, these job opportunities are over here, let's go do that. People who choose to come here and work at those places, the creative class, so to speak, the engineers, the architects, the digital media, the writers, the list goes on and on. They want to live, work, and play in a very similar area. They don't necessarily want to go way out into the urban area, rural area, and drive into work. So workforce housing, the kind of quality of life opportunities that are available to them in Bay St. Louis, it's complicated. We have to have a master plan around this. And I think as we go forward, we're going to talk strategically here in a second. But you see in all the conversations I'm having that every key leader focused on a strategic opportunity for coastal Mississippi and the competitive nature of coastal Mississippi to all these other communities that are doing it right, that we better think about that new economy, that creative class in a different way. You hear that all the time, don't you?
Yeah, and this term creative economy and this creative class, look, every job is in that class. Every job now. When we talk about industrial type of jobs, let's say at Port Bienville or at Stennis, like with Relativity Space, these are folks that are thoughtful, creative, critical thinkers, have a wide array of skill sets. To be a productive member of this economy, even in an industrial manufacturing sense, it's a different type of employee. We don't have the kind of manufacturing where it's repetitive, single task type of work anymore. This is folks that can go in and program equipment and do industrial maintenance and troubleshoot and problem solve. This is a whole host of critical skills now that we're assessing for. And in Hancock County, we were the first on the coast to get in our ACT work-ready community status, for example. The other two coastal counties are trailing behind but are successfully following us. But that helps assess those skills. And so we're in the forefront of trying to determine what our workforce can deliver, how adaptable they can be to this new market, and then find customized programs with the companies and our trade schools and community colleges to fit those skill sets. But I'll also tell you that you mentioned community development. To me, this is the biggest problem we have on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. It's certainly a problem in Hancock County, and we've been very vocal about this. When I first got here, I was wondering, if we have all these manufacturing jobs, where are these people living? Because they don't appear to be living in Hancock County. It's just obvious when you look at it. We did a Freedom of Information Act request on the NASA Stennis Space Center badge office. And of about 4,000 or 5,000 badges that they issue out there, I got the zip codes of where everybody lives.
A lot coming from Louisiana.
Hancock County's in 4th place.
Yeah.
All right. Number 1 is St. Tammany Parish in all of Louisiana. Number 2 is Pearl River County. Number 3 is Harrison County. Number 4 is Hancock County. And most of those folks live in Diamond Head, okay, right off the interstate. So when we talk about the Mississippi Gulf Coast from a workforce perspective, we have to be able to expand our thinking beyond the 3 coastal counties and incorporate Louisiana, Pearl River County, and I think Jackson County has the same issues.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
I mean, the NASA Stennis Space Center center director lives in Slidell.
Yeah.
And the manager of the Ingalls Shipbuilding Yard lives in Mobile, Alabama.
Of course, I spent some time in Mobile, but at one point, Ingalls was the largest employer in Mobile County.
I believe that.
And it's still probably in the top 5, but think about that for a second.
Well, it's really important for us as community leaders because the payroll-related impacts associated with these high-paying, high-quality jobs is where you get the economic benefit in your community. It's what's paying for your churches and your schools and your civic organizations. And when these folks are taking their paycheck and going home to Slidell or Covington, Louisiana, they're not spending that money here in Hancock County or in Harrison County or in nearby areas. And this is where we lose, our economic vitality. And I think some of the information that's come out from places like the Gulf Coast Business Council, which have been advocating for changes in the way we think about this, are pointing out correctly that we have a community development problem, not an economic development problem.
When you look at the current work of the Business Council, they've done a good job over the last 2 or 3 years of turning the corner away from Katrina. Katrina was, it was an important element of helping to make sure that we were filling all the gaps left by Katrina. But now, they're now thinking strategically. And Anthony Wilson and Ashley and that whole team has done a really good job of helping us understand the things we better do to be competitive, because if we don't do these things regionally, and it's not just about Hancock County doing this by yourself, as you pointed out, it's all of us working together, then we're going to have our lunch eat by Chattanooga and Huntsville and any long list of others. Fofo talks about it, Billy Hughes talks about it, everyone talks about it.
We're talking
about it. In the know. So we're going to continue our conversation with Bill Cork from the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission in just a second.
From the Singing River Electric and Coast Electric Newsroom, your news now.
Today is primary election day in Mississippi. Today you can decide whether you want to vote Republican or Democrat. Voters will see 2020 presidential candidates as well as candidates for the congressional race of both parties. Mississippi State Senate is also up for grabs as Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith will run opposed against Democrat Mike Espy, plus 2 other opponents. An inmate serving life for homicide has died at the Central Mississippi Correctional Facility in Rankin County. Details are limited and foul play is not suspected at this time. An autopsy will determine the official cause of death. The inmate's name will be released once the family has been notified. The Pearl River Wildcats drew the #1 seed in next week's National Junior College Basketball Tournament. They'll be just 4 wins away from their first ever national championship following a first-round bye. Pearl River's the last unbeaten team at the JUCO level. For SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1, I'm Kyle Curley.
Everyone in my family uses electricity differently. But when it comes to our Touchstone Energy Cooperative, we all think about it the same way. The co-op is power. Sure, electricity turns the lights on, but power is the information I get from my co-op about efficiency, safety, technology. And I trust the co-op because we are the co-op.
They're our neighbors.
Our friends. Our home.
Brought to you by Coast Electric and Singing River Electric, your Touchstone Energy Cooperatives.
Ugh, I've got to get that fixed.
Uneven driveways causing headaches? Helms Polyfoam will fix it without tearing up your driveway in the process. We inject Polyfoam under settled concrete to stabilize it in a matter of minutes, not days. Polyfoam is used on runways, railways, and highways, so there is no question it will support your driveway. We also repair seawalls, sidewalks, pond dams, retaining walls, and unstable soil. Visit HelmsPolyfoam.com or call Helms Polyfoam at 601-966-7821.
It's been a long off season. Your outdoor projects have piled up higher than the leaves in your backyard. Now the days are longer and the grass is greener. It's time to take back your property with quality equipment from SunSouth, where you'll save time and money on easy-to-use John Deere equipment, like new John Deere zero-turn mowers and compact utility tractors, all affordably priced and ready to work, including the easy-to-use 1023E with 60-inch drive-over deck, starting at only $149 a month. And if you need to tackle bigger projects, think SunSouth for the all-new gear-driven 3025D from John Deere. It has all the power you need, and right now at SunSouth, the tractor with loader is affordably priced at only $272 a month. And SunSouth even has a great selection of powerful, lightweight steel equipment, including trimmers, blowers, chainsaws, and more. So for affordable equipment to get your outdoor projects done right, think SunSouth. Visit your neighbors at SunSouth today or shop online at sunsouth.com. SunSouth, for those that do.
Offer expires 3/31/20. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Just like money in your pocket, that's SuperPalm. When you trade with us, you always get our best. Super deals are wide. Whether you sell or buy, we cash checks, prepaid bills. We make loans like no one will, and help you keep your pockets filled. Just like money in your pocket, that's SuperPalm.
At Baldwin Subaru, we have a lot to love. We love that we've been family-owned and operated in Covington for 70 years. We love offering free shuttle service and encore deliveries with all new Subaru purchases. But more than anything, we love helping you purchase the car of your dreams. Become part of the Baldwin family, and you'll have a lot to love too. Stop by Baldwin Subaru in Covington during the Subaru A Lot to Love event from March 3rd to March 31st.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had two different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go be Elvis." And he stood up, and a much deeper voice, he put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
The Mississippi Power Weather Center. Your weather now.
Mostly cloudy today, 20% chance of showers with a high near 70 tonight. We'll see patchy fog develop after midnight. The overnight low near 59. That fog sticking around through mid-morning tomorrow. Partly sunny as it turns out, high 72. Mostly cloudy tomorrow night, the low near 59. Continued cloudiness on Thursday with a high of 72. Visit MississippiPower.com/ways to save to learn about programs and resources that can help you save energy and money on your electric bill.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Bill Cork here, who's Executive Director and CEO of the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. I've said a couple of times during this conversation that you've got some big responsibilities and that it's a slightly different than the other economic development organizations. So let's help people understand how it's different and what it is.
Right. Well, we have Stennis International Airport, Port Bienville, the Port Bienville Railroad, and economic development responsibility for all of Hancock County.
So you actually manage the physical assets.
We are an asset-based economic development organization. And if you take a look at Harrison County, which a lot of people are familiar with, you have, say, the Port of Gulfport, you've got Gulfport Airport, you've got the Harrison County Development Commission. In Hancock County, we're all three of those things in one organization. Mm-hmm. And which is great because we're nimble. We can stitch together a lot of great programs for people, manage supply chain for our customers directly because we own our own railroad and can provide logistics support. One thing a lot of people don't realize about our organization is we don't take any ad valorem tax. We are totally self-sustaining. We generate about $4 to $5 million a year net operating income. We've got a strong fund balance of about $17 to $18 million. We are able to self-finance a lot of our capital investment. We do take grants, and we get BP money and the types of things that the other government agencies do. But I like to say we're a nonprofit, for-profit government organization, and so we're not a burden on the taxpayer. We're actually not only helping create jobs and tax base for the community, which are our principal goals, to leverage those assets into jobs and tax base, but we also generate revenue so we don't become a burden.
So, Bill, let me ask you this. So, I've mentioned that I've spent some time with Michael Gallis, who's a nationally known planner, and when he comes to a community, he looks at rail and do you have a port and how do the interstates connect together and whatever. Think about Hancock's strategic importance. It's proximity to Stennis, the fact that you have the I-10 corridor right there, the fact that you have next to Port Bienville the opportunity to go straight out. It's shallow drop, but still. It doesn't, for the kind of manufacturing you're doing there, it's critical to them to get to the intercoastal waterway really quickly. Rail and how all these pieces fit together is really strategically important to your overall mission.
It really is. We're a logistics provider, essentially. That we're part of the logistics chain for our major industrial customers. And what a lot of people may not really realize is that our rational nexus, our critical logistics links is with the Port of New Orleans and the New Orleans Public Belt Railroad, which connects all of our markets to international export destinations. We rely on international imports for feedstock for our companies. And 50% of all the products produced, say, at Port Bienville, interchange by rail through one of the 6 Class 1 railroads in New Orleans, which is one of only a couple of places in the United States where 6 or 7 Class 1 railroads interchange.
Tell people what Class 1 is.
A Class 1 railroad are your big railroad companies, like you'll see BNSF or Union Pacific or Canadian National. There's a handful of these large intercontinental type of rail companies. Our principal service provider is CSX. As you know, they run along the length of the coast. And we interchange with them every day, 6 days a week, and they provide our principal interchange service. About 50% of the freight goes back on their network out of Port Bienville, and the other 50% interchanges to Western destinations in the U.S. or Mexico or Canada. So we have a huge reliance on the New Orleans gateway for our inbound and outbound freight. Now, at our airport, our principal mission there is actually military maintenance, repair, and overhaul. We're a large remanufacturer of military aircraft. Big companies there like Tionic, which is an Alaskan native company, has huge contracts with the military to service C-130 aircraft and other type of aircraft. We also have an emerging market right now in foreign military sales. We have our first fleet of vertical takeoff and landing planes called the CV-22 for the Japanese military, and we have other foreign militaries that use our airfield to do maintenance and fit up a brand new aircraft they purchase through these big foreign trade deals that get done on military. So a lot of people don't realize that Stennis is really kind of a mini military base. At the same time, we provide general aviation services. And of course, we also market the space business for Stennis, as well as a host of other missions that they have out there, like Navy Oceanography and the National Data Buoy Center and so forth. So it's a massive array of various and sundry vertical markets, from chemicals and plastics to logistics to space to aviation-related activities. What's so great about my job is that from one day to the next, it's a new market in a new country or a new city, and we get to show off what South Mississippi has to offer. It's amazing.
Wow, all right there in Hancock County, and people can understand why I continue to refer to Ingalls as a bookend and Hancock County as a bookend. I think probably some people who don't know what's happening in Hancock County say, why does Ricky always say bookend in Hancock County? What can possibly be equivalent to Ingalls over on this other side? And you're beginning to kind of get that picture that Bill is telling. What I'm actually curious about, Bill, is interesting to me. You came here in 2016. You sort of understood, you'd spent some time at Stennis. You understood how the pieces fit together. But I think every time you probably turned a corner, there was something else to learn, some new opportunity, some new, company that was thinking about being here, or you found a company that was here that you go, my goodness, I didn't realize they were here. And what they're doing is so important. I bet that the learning curve for you was just unbelievable.
Well, one of the things that I screen my employees for, and they'll tell you this if you ask them, is you have to have intellectual curiosity to do this business, because you are learning something new every day. And economic development in general is like that. Now, we have some core vertical markets, our chemicals and plastics, aerospace and aviation. These are critical, where we know we have a competitive advantage. But we're dealing with a whole variety of new prospects in our pipeline that are bringing all kinds of new technologies. Like, who'd have thunk it that we'd be doing material science and 3D printing, parts for things. This is all brand new cutting edge technology. So you have to get smart on it, and then you have to figure out what these business owners are looking for in a partnership with the community in order for them to be successful. And every single one of them has a different need. There's no cookie cutter way to address these business needs, and so we're very selective about our partners as well. We want to make sure that the companies that are coming to Hancock County, before they ask us for help, are willing to contribute to the community. What are you going to give us? It's not just a corporate giveaway type of program, and if it's not a good match, we let them pay their own way.
What's interesting, doing my homework, trying to get back up to speed on what's happening as it relates to economic development on the coast, and particularly in Hancock County, and preparation for this, is that you win some and you lose some. But even on the ones we lost, I mean, there may be some really big ones we lost. We were actually in the running. There's a story behind that in and of itself. The process that we're going through to put coastal Mississippi on the map in ways we probably never imagined us being put on the map, that we're actually being taken seriously as a potential opportunity here, aren't we?
If you only knew, there's some of these that I'm still under non-disclosure agreements about, but we've had opportunities as large as $10 to $12 billion investments with up to 5,000 jobs looking at Hancock County, Mississippi. In fact, part of the challenge that we have as economic developers is many of the companies really don't want their business plans showcased in the market. Yeah. You'll see the big splashes. You hear the Continental Tires, or Ingalls may win a new big contract, and a lot of that is great. But many of the companies will not allow us to do press releases on their latest corporate expansion, because doing so sends a signal into the market that lets their competitors know what they're doing. Yeah. So we have seen, just globally, I can say that every single one of our major companies in Hancock County has expansion plans. We have over the next 3 to 5 years, just in existing organic growth from existing companies, as many as 2,000 new jobs being projected and over $450 million in capital investment. These companies won't let us tell you the details, but just to give you an idea, where are those 2,000 new jobs going to live? Mm-hmm. Where are those folks going to go to school? What kind of programs are they going to have available? Those are the next things we need to be thinking about as a community to make sure that those companies continue to choose to make those investments and grow the business.
Jim McIlvaine talked about traveling the world with Governor Phil Bryant, and then Mary Graham from Community College also mentioned that she went to Saudi Arabia and was the only woman at a table, and the cultural differences. Mm-hmm. A very fascinating story. Have you had an opportunity to take any of this trip for the government? I
have, but I'm very selective about international travel because we want to be conscious of our investment, and it's very expensive and time consuming. But because we have so many companies that are from other countries, what I try to do is choose the countries we pick. Like India, I went to India in 2017. I've been to France to meet these companies. I go and make calls at the corporate headquarters, and then I use their testimonials to introduce me to other companies that may be interested in locating in Mississippi. So, the best way to get a resale on a product is to get a testimonial. So we have a very conscious international foreign direct investment.
It's so interesting that Governor Bryant, and I'm sure that Tate Reeves is going to do the same thing, spent time. He would go meet with Benjamin Netanyahu and talk about what's happening at Ingalls and bring Jim along so that Jim could represent that point of view. The amount of effort and energy from all across the state focused on selling the wares of coastal Mississippi and the rest of the state for the good of all of us is just an incredible amount of energy. I mean, people cannot lay down and sleep anymore, can they?
No, it's a tireless job, and especially with the economy being good now. If we're not getting it now, the economy will
like my
down.
Dad used to say, you got to get it while the getting's good. That's right. Okay, what we're going to do when we come back, this is Bill Cork with the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. We're going to continue our conversation, kind of sum it all up. What's the future look like? We'll be back after this break.
Are your drains draining slow? MasterFlowPlumbing.net. Are your faucets leaking or toilets clogged? MasterFlowPlumbing.net. Masterflow Plumbing, from water to sewer lines, toilets to water heaters, or faucets to clogged drains. If it has a pipe and quits flowing, Masterflow will keep it going. See a leak in your kitchen, bath, or yard? Call Masterflow Plumbing or visit MasterFlowPlumbing.net. Residential or commercial, we know leaks inside and out. Proudly serving the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Visit us at MasterFlowPlumbing.net.
The Love Help Hotline.
I'm in love with two different...
We get this call a lot. Let's start off with their names.
Okay, Double Shop and PJ's. I love them both so much.
Double Shop, One Stop, and PJ's Coffee, like the businesses off Exit 50 in Ocean Springs.
You know them?
Hey, Marv, we've got another one.
It's too much for me to handle. The state's largest selection of beers on one side, the world's best coffee and sandwiches on the other at PJ's. Party supplies at Double Shop, party cake pops at PJ's.
Okay, listen, bucko, I'm going to say this once. PJ's now sells some of Double Shop's premier brands on tap, like Chandelier Island Brewing Company and Southern Prohibition. Plus, Double Shop dropped off a nice selection of bottled beers, including some hard seltzers. And if you like growlers... Don't do that. Double Shop One Stop, just 50 yards north of Exit 50 on the right, and PJ's Coffee right across the street. Ocean Springs Latimer now has the best coffee on the coast. plus craft beer on tap, sandwiches, and other goodies.
I know what it's like to grow up poor in Mississippi. That's why fixing the poverty rate in this state is one of my top priorities. My name is Carl Boynton, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in the 4th District. I'm not a career politician, far from it. I worked my way up from stocking shelves and building fences to owning several businesses. I know the value of good-paying jobs and want to bring them to Mississippi. Now more than ever, we need honest, self-made lawmakers. We need common sense back in Congress. I'm focused on solutions, not re-elections. We need to balance the budget, protect unborn children, and defend our Second Amendment rights. We need a leader in Congress, not a follower. We need someone who will fight for Mississippi every day. Mississippi can do better. Join my fight to end career politicians. I want to help the people of Mississippi, not PACs and lobbyists in Washington. So let's push for term limits. Let's support our homeless veterans. Let's leave our kids with better, brighter futures in this state. If you're with me, let's get Congress working for us again and not for the special interests. Let's make Congress great again. Vote Boynton, March 10th. I'm Carl Boynton, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Carl Boynton.
When you need to pick up a last-minute birthday card or gift, stop into Love's Pharmacy and Gifts in Pass Christian. Yes, Love's is a full-service pharmacy combining local hospitality and affordability. When half of the store has unique gifts, beautiful decorations for your home, fragrances, and free gift wrapping, you only have to make one stop. Love's Pharmacy and Gifts, 12345 Vidalia Road in Pass Christian. If you love great service with a smile, you'll love Love's Pharmacy, with a second location now open in Ocean Springs.
Take a pause.
When you can't take care of your cat or dog anymore, you have options. You can ask friends or a shelter to take in your pet, but what if your pet's a horse?
Owners are having health problems. Owners are aging, and they can no longer care for their horses, and they need to surrender them.
Tom Persicino of the ASPCA, now with pilot programs in Oklahoma and Texas with regional support centers for horses. They're billed as a safe place for horse owners to find new homes for their animal. He says the work is rewarding, but it's not easy.
It is emotional. I mean, there have been many days where I've been hugging a client and she's crying, I'm crying, or our coordinator's crying, our vet's crying. It's tough.
The regional support centers have helped out over 100 horses, and Persicino says the ASPCA wants to talk to people who want to help.
Let us try to help other communities and other municipalities set up similar programs.
Want to help? Head to aspca.org and do a search on equine welfare. Take a pause. Jill Nato, Fox News.
This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We have Bill Cork here, who's the Executive Director and CEO of the Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission. Man, Bill, the more we talk, the more people, I hope, get an impression of just how critical the bookend of Hancock County's economic engine really is. How do you see the future? You know, you've talked a little bit about companies being interested. You've mentioned, as we're going to the break, we got to get it while the getting's good. There's no time to sleep.
That's right.
You know, the iron is hot. You got to strike now. You have to. You really mean that, because the competitive situation is enormous.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the future.
Look, you have to do two things at once in this business. You have to be able to strike while the iron is hot, but you also have to be able to forecast a little bit and look at the crystal ball and find out where the future is. Because in asset-based economic development, it takes years to develop infrastructure. It takes years to build buildings. And we're in a challenging development environment, let's be honest. I mean, with wetlands and all the regulatory things, insurance issues and so forth. So you have to be able to put some Kentucky windage on this and think about what you're going to hit downrange and be prepared for when it comes. There's three things that we're focusing on right now to do that. One of those is we've developed a long-term strategy for aerospace and aviation, and we know that the critical elements of aerospace and aviation are going to be workforce development. So we work very closely with Pearl River Community College to establish over the last several years the development of a new campus at Stennis International Airport. It's going to be an aerospace and aviation academy. We've selected a flight school operator, and we're going to start being able to take from sixth graders, 13-year-old, maybe eighth graders, start training them as pilots and A&P mechanics, and get those folks really from middle school on up, get them trained and ready to be the workforce of the future in this aviation and aerospace arena. I mentioned our military maintenance, repair, and overhaul business, but also the new rocket production and so forth at Stennis. Another key piece to that aerospace and aviation component is we're licensing Stennis International Airport as a spaceport. This will be one of about a dozen spaceports in the United States when the license is issued, which will allow us to launch horizontally launched rockets from the airport. What does this mean? It means we put a rocket on the bottom of an airplane, like a 737 style airplane or smaller. That rocket takes off, flies over the Gulf of Mexico, points the rocket in the right direction, rocket falls off and goes into low Earth orbit. We know we have a competitive advantage with Stennis for rocket propulsion testing. We now have people producing rockets at Stennis. We have to have a place to launch them, and right now vertical launch really isn't an option. So horizontal launch is the next future. It's going to take a couple years to get through the licensing process. So that's what we're looking downrange as.
So you might see Elon Musk involved here.
Yeah,
at some point.
SpaceX was a tenant at Stennis.
Yeah.
They continue to look. Blue Origin, some Jeff Bezos' company. Relativity is our latest. We have Aerojet Rocketdyne, which has been around since Spot was a puppy. They're still doing great things there. Lockheed Martin's doing satellite stuff there. We just had a big announcement. They're bringing in 30 or 40 high-tech jobs and relocated a factory from California here. Rolls-Royce's jet engine testing programs there are, they're the new Trent 1000. All the latest and greatest jet engines are being tested out there. We have a massive cluster in aerospace and aviation related business, and we're going to focus on that. Chemicals, still huge. We have the chemical corridor in Louisiana is full. Mm-hmm. I mean, all those plants in Baton Rouge, they've made such a mess over there. Pardon our friends to the west here, but these companies, there's no more room at the end, and they're looking now to the suburbs to grow. That's the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Mm-hmm. And so we have to think about things like, how are we going to develop new pipelines for raw materials and finished product in this region? How are we going to create the space to build these plants? So at Port Bienville, for instance, we've just acquired another 1,000 acres adjacent to the port, optioned another 1,200 acres down there. We've just purchased 1,200 acres at Stennis Airport for future growth and expansion. So, we have about 3,000 or 4,000 acres now of developed property we didn't have 2 years ago. So that when people come a-calling, we've got something to sell them. So land acquisition is a critical strategy for us for long-term growth. And then the third major piece of this is we have to maintain our maritime and logistics, rail in particular, related investments. We're doing a major dredging project starting this summer, which will reopen all of our waterways to a 15-foot depth. We also have a 26-mile rail connection that would connect Port Bienville to Nicholson through the Stennis buffer zone in Hancock County, providing a second access to the port for rail, because right now we're single served by CSX. That has taken 12 years just to get the environmental and feasibility work done. So it's a lot to think about, but there's a lot going on.
It's an incredible conversation, and my sense is that I'll have each of you guys who are responsible for economic development back on a pretty regular basis, because there's a lot to talk about. I want this show to be about inspiring people, but at the same time, it's about educating people, helping them understand what it takes to build a strong region. And this is such a relevant part of that overall conversation. We're coming to the end, but one thing I want to mention, you mentioned the partnership with Pearl River Community College, but I think people would be shocked to know how many universities and community colleges are actually collaborating at Stennis. It's enormous, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Stennis Space Center has permanent campuses on site with Mississippi State University, the University of Southern Mississippi. You've got degree programs going out there inside the Fee area at Stennis. In addition to our Hancock campus and the Future Aerospace Academy, we have a lot of educational opportunities in Hancock, and we're really proud of that.
Well, Bill, thank you for taking the time to join me today. My sense is, and my hope is that people will, listen to this show. The ones that didn't get an opportunity to listen live will listen to it on podcasts, all the podcast platforms. We'll watch it on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, and pay attention to the message. And that is that we got to have a lot of smart people at the table, focus on the future, willing to lose sleep at night, focus on a better region. And Hancock County is playing its role in that overall conveation, and I appreciate your leadership. So thank you for joining me, buddy.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for having me. It's been great.
It's my pleasure. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, and have a great day. I was going to get into who I'm having tomorrow, but